Hello everyone, welcome again to my YouTube channel. Alright, where we talk about seafarers, sailors, mariners, whatever you want to call us, and every other thing that affects the industry as a whole. Alright, once again, thank you all for liking, for watching, for sharing, for subscribing. Alright, this means a lot and a whole lot to us. Okay, today what are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about how to become a captain. Quite a few folks think that, you just see a guy who says, I'm a sailor, and oh, they just call you captain. Hey, captain. If there are so many people actually who, also they are seafarers, and then when they come on land, they identify themselves as captains. Even though they may be like many years and many ranks away from being a captain, it's just cool to call yourself a captain. And you come on land and say, oh, captain this, captain that. All right. So I don't know if the mariners are gonna like this, but I'm still gonna let people know, okay, what it is to become a captain on board a vessel, and not just any vessel, a SOLAS vessel. Okay, SOLAS. You can Google that to know what SOLAS means. So this is not one of those speedboats. This is not one of those ferries and all of that. This is actually a proper SOLAS vessel. Okay, so in one of our videos we talked about starting your career as a seafarer, right? So when you go to watch that, if you've seen that, you would understand what it is to actually start your career. That's the first step, okay? Now, let's assume that you've done all of that, okay? Or you already understand what that means. So, if you go to a conventional school, all right, you've done your 4 years or 5 years in college, university, the first thing you got to do is you go on board as a cadet, which is like your internship, all right? Now, after your internship, which is usually between 12 months to 18 months. All right. It depends on your issuing administration or authority. Okay. But it's never below 12 months. All right. And I don't think it's above 18 months anyway. So after this, of your time on board, actively stamped, you could see it in your discharge booklet that you've actually spent 12 months on board. Then you go. In some cases, you have to write an exam. You write an exam for what we call OOW, Officer of the Watch. Now, if you pass your exam, then you'll be issued the Certificate of Competency Class 3 for Officer of the Watch, OOW. Some schools, because you've gone through the college, you've gone through all of that, all they need is for you to go and do your cadetship on board the ship. And then when you're back, all right, with proof that you've actually spent XYZ amount of time or the stipulated amount of time on the ship, then they issue you your license, which is your professional license, OOW, or Certificate of Competency Class 3. With this, as an engineer, you can come on board as a fourth engineer, in some cases, third engineer, and for the officers, you can actually become a third officer. In some cases, in some companies where they don't have that, you can actually go on board as a second officer. But that is the first step of being an officer on board a ship. All right, so that is for people who went to the conventional school system, or who went through the conventional school system. Now, if you didn't go through the conventional school system, okay, it's still the same thing, pretty much. You still have to come on board to do your 12 to 18 months cadetship, and after that you'll be eligible to go to class. See the difference now? This time around you will go to class, which is usually within 6 to 12 months. All right, some schools these days around the world, they look for how to compress this whole duration to a shorter time, but ideally it's within 6 months to 12 months of school time and writing of exam. If you pass, of course, you'll be issued the license, Certificate of Competency Class 3, which is also known as OOW, all right, Officer of the Watch. For engineers, it's going to be Officer of Engineering Watch. I think that's OOEW or something like that. And for deck guys, pretty much Officer of Navigational Watch. Yeah. So, and then if you come up through the ratings process, which is maybe you came on board as an oiler or an able seaman, then you would have to, have spent 36 months of your time on board before you are eligible to, go sit for the class. Now, I did not say eligible to write the exam. You are going to be eligible to sit for the class for your OOW license. And this is something I want you all to know, that because I said it takes 12 months to 18 months of sea time before you can either go write the exam or be eligible to sit for the class, or 36 months before you're eligible to sit for the class, doesn't mean that you will get 12 months straight. In fact, MLC, which is Maritime Labor Convention, has actually, they're pushing to see that, people don't get to spend that long on board in a stretch. You can't get that anymore. Okay, so most times that 12 months, before you can actually accumulate 12 months, is going to be within space of 2 to 3 years. Yeah. All right, so now after that, you go write the exam, you sit for the class or you write the exam. Of course, you pass, and then you get your OOW license. And after that, you can now come on board as well, or fourth engineer or a third engineer for the engine department. And then for the deck side, you could actually become, third officer or second officer. In some vessels, you have things like junior engineer and junior officer. Okay, but this, just letting you know the basics. Okay, now after that, you work on board again for another 12 to 18 months before you are eligible to go to class for your second engineer's ticket or your second class ticket. Most people call it second class ticket. All right, the previous one that I talked about, people call it third class ticket. This one, people call it second class ticket. Now, you after this, you go to the class. The same thing, usually around 6 to 9 months or 12 months. Sit in class, write the exam. There's also oral exams that you have to do. You do all of this, and if you pass, you'll be issued your second engineer's ticket or license or COC class 2. And same thing for the deck guys. You have what we call COC class 2 for chief officer. Yeah, it's called chief officer's license. All right. Now, this, in some institutions, they have what we call second engineer stroke chief engineer. But this chief engineer is going to come with a limitation. It's going to come, let's say, less than 3,000 kilowatts. And then for the deck side or navigational side, you get chief officer stroke captain, but the captain is going to come with a limitation, which is, say, less than 3,000 gross tonnage. Okay, all right. So after you've done this, you get this ticket or this license, and you go on board the ship, and then you work for 12 months. And then after the 12 months, you'll be eligible to go and sit in class for your chief engineer's license, or in the deck side, the captain's license. Now, let us break it down one more time. After school, you get to do your 12 to 18 months cadetship, which is about 2 to 3 years, so let's say 3 years. You go write your exam within 6 to 9 months, so that's another 1 year, so 4 years. All right, and then you work for another 12 to 18 months, which is under 3 years. All right, and then you sit in class, so that's another 1 year, so that's 4 years, 8 years, and then you go back again, 12 months of sea time. So let's say 2 years. All right, and then you sit in class. Usually this time, some schools will just do oral exams because of the courses that you've done in the past. Okay, so if you have that, sometimes they just do oral. Some of them will actually make you sit in class, for another period of time, and then they issue you the master's license or the chief engineer's license. So another 2 years, so about 10 years minimum, all right, before you can get to the rank of a captain or a chief engineer. Now, there are limitations also. So when you are going on board a ship, you have to be mindful of the size of the ship. For deck guys, they deal with gross tonnage. And then for the engine guys, or for the engineers, we deal with what we call the power or the capacity of the engines. All right. So you see things like less than 3,000 gross tonnage. What that means is that you cannot work in that capacity on a ship that has more than 3,000 gross tonnage, or that is more than 3,000 gross tonnage. And then for the engineers, you can't work on a vessel that is higher than 3,000 gross tonnage or 3,000 kilowatts. All right. So also you have things like limited and unlimited. Okay, you have unlimited and unlimited. So most times the less than 3,000 gross tonnage or kilowatts is usually limited. It's called a limited license. So there are places you can't work. Some of them are even coastal, NCV, near coastal. So it means that you cannot work outside of the coast of the country that you are, the issuing country, that is giving you the license. And then unlimited, what that means obviously is you have unlimited capacity. You can work on any size of ship and in any country, foreign going vessels, even anyway, whatever kind of vessel, you can actually work on them. Of course, we have the steam vessels, you have the steam license somewhere in the corner, but this is just the basics, to get into the ranks of either being a captain or a chief engineer. Now, there's some people who have dual licenses. You can be a chief engineer and then decide, you know what, let me go get my master's license. Yeah, people do that. And there's some captains who be like, you know what, I also want to get a license as a chief engineer. You can also do that. But that depends on individual. All right. Okie dokie. So there are so many cooks out there who come out and say they are captains. There's so many ABs who are out there who come out and say, I'm a captain. There are so many, bosuns who come out and, claim other ranks. But of course, it's entirely up to them. It's not, I have nothing to say about that, as long as it doesn't affect the job on the ship. Whatever happens on land is on land, or whatever happens on the ship is on the ship. All right. But it's just for people to know that you don't just become a captain overnight. It doesn't happen like that. Okay. There are processes to take. There are steps to follow. I started my cadetship in 2009. I think I got my chief engineer's license 2021. So that's what, about 12 years? All right. Before I could become a chief engineer. So it's not, and I know people who, got theirs, I think around 10 years after being a cadet. And there are some people who 20 years, after being a cadet, they still haven't gotten it. All right. It takes time. It takes planning. It takes money. That's very important. It takes all of this before you can actually ascend from one rank to another rank. It doesn't just come by, oh, I know how to do it. You should actually have a license to back it up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this video. Thank you all for watching. I just hope you like, you subscribe, and turn on the notification so you can get to, catch our contents firsthand as they're coming out. All right, until next week, bon voyage.